Yes. Yes.
So I got errors in that one too?
No.
Okay.
I don't see anything.
Okay, well, that's fine. Whatever. We can change, but let's work off the one I handed out, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, let's have a call to order as the meeting begins on the planning commission on May 2nd, 2024. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, for roll call for the last of us, before we get too awesome more. Carl Granzo, present. Randy Thomas, present.
David Smith, present.
Okay. At this time, I would love to have the appointees stand and directed by Rick for Sarah Coates and Mary Gray to be sworn in as our commissioners.
We're gonna do this one at a time, and it's gonna be in alphabetical order by last name.
You go, girl.
What can I say? So, as the city recorder, it is one of my most treasured duties to get to swear people in. And so, raise your hand and read the statement on this document. If you are subcommittee.
I, Sarah Coates, do solemnly swear and affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and laws of the state of Oregon and the city charter, ordinances and code of the city of Lakeside. I will respect and support the planning commission bylaws, policies, and decisions. I recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that has decisions can be made only by majority vote at a planning commission public meeting. I will to the best of my ability faithfully and lawfully perform the duties of planning commissioner for the city of Lakeside, for which I am about to assume. That's enough.
Well, come up, Sarah.
Yay.
Do I have to-
Yes, you guys
Sign
sign
it
it.
a minute.
Mary can take her oath back.
Ready?
Okay.
Very good.
And
I, Mary Grace,
Sarah
solemnly
can sit
swear
by
and affirm that I will
you
support
or
the
me?
Constitution
Yeah.
of the United States of America and laws of the state of Oregon and the city charter, ordinances and code of the city of Lakeside.
The copy looking fancy.
Board planning
Good.
commission bylaws, policies and decisions. I recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can be made only be a majority vote at a planning commission public meeting. I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully and lawfully perform the duties of planning commissioner for the city of Lakeside, for which I am about to assume. Thank you.
Second time
I'm
around.
gonna ask you to sign that, and then I'm gonna sign it, and I'm gonna make a copy of it, because you get the original, but I keep a copy in your
No.
receipt.
Yeah, he missed that on.
I need to sign it,
What's that?
and I will sign it, and I will make a photocopy, you will get the original.
I hope purple doesn't mess it up. This one different than the one that we already got.
Yeah, this new one that he just gave us,
Correction.
it didn't have the swear, the old one had the swearing in that I see, the new one that he didn't even have the swearing in. So I'm not sure.
My
if it-
seat's
Yeah, there wasn't, it's really good on this one.
Yeah.
Well, you've been gone for a
I
while.
know, it's cold. Okay, you have it at house, we can buy it.
Change it was.
Okay, we'll see. I follow along with that.
Better do with the misspelling.
I don't know if I have it right. Council with your.
And
Wow, that's pretty
Yeah,
important there.
I'll add to my collection.
yeah,
Mr. Chairman, you have two new planning commissioners ready and willing to serve.
Thank everyone for participating. Coming of our new commission. Obviously, we have a situation here where we have public comments that don't look like on the inside, but is there any out there? And
No one has raised their hand.
okay. Well, I would assume then there is no public comment at this time. I would like to see go to our next one, which was the approval of the April 4th planning commission minutes. Has everybody read over the commission minutes from last time?
Yep,
Yes,
Okay,
and the correction that was handed to us tonight.
yes. I think we would go off of that one, basically.
There's a typo at the bottom of the last line of line 7, I believe.
there's no swearing in of commissioners either.
Well, until they're approved, they still say draft.
Oh,
Well, no, I meant here
Um,
to there. On the old one that you just have says swearing in of commissioners.
Yes.
The new one you just handed us. Where does it have?
These are the minutes from last meeting.
I know, okay.
We're swearing in this.
Okay,
okay, is there any other questions beside that, Commissioner Smith?
no,
All right. Well, is there a motion to approve the April 4th minutes?
I will make a motion to approve the April 4th, 2024 minutes.
I'll second it.
That it proved that Carl has seconded, approved, excuse me, and Commissioner Gray has seconded it. Okay, now on,
you got to
go with the vote. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Negative? Okay, the minutes have been approved. Our next part of this is the review of the draft. Now, as the new commissioners had an opportunity to peruse and go over the ordinance, since that, because what we're trying to do is send this review, for us to review it, but we want to send this to the Department of, well, the DLCB. We do have questions that we can ask about it, but the main thing is we can send this to, from my understanding, correct me, Rick, we can review it, look at it, and if we have any questions, it's fine, but we can send this as it is that we have done. And if there's, then we can have, once they come in, we have is it a public?
Yes.
And at that time, we can switch, change, or adjust it accordingly.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, the next step is actually a public hearing that you will conduct most likely in July. Now, the reason why happens is before you have a public hearing involving this kind of activity, i.e. land use, we are required to give notice to the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development. So essentially what you're doing tonight is asking yourselves, is there anything on here you want to change before we send it to the state? It's going to go to the state. They want 40 days to comment on it. And then when you have your public hearing, then you will receive input from the state. A, they like this. B, they didn't like this. C, we have no comment. So what we're doing tonight is just looking at this in preparation for your public hearing you're going to have in about 60 days. You can change it at the public hearing, after the public hearing. This is not going to be the final product. What this is, does this say enough that the state knows where we're heading and the state has an opportunity to comment prior to, or once in a while, they actually show up for the public hearing? Is there anything on here? Is everything in here that you think is worthy for state consideration to get their comments on where we're heading as it relates to this ordinance? So the goal tonight isn't about wordsmithing it. The goal here is, does it include the concepts that we want comments from the state prior or at our public hearing in 60 days? That's the goal tonight. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Thank
On
you.
this, since we actually did a review, again, the new commissioners as well. Just comments would be good, if there is any.
I have a question. Once we go to that, we have 60 days and we have this public hearing thing. If we change something, does it have to go back to the state again?
Only if it is what they consider an adverse substantive change. In other words, if you approved, if you limited the size to a food cart to, let's say, for example, this limits a size of a food unit to 20 by 10. If you changed it to 100 by 200, that would be an adverse change that would certainly require going back through that process. If you don't, if you do changes that are more cosmetic, but still within the principles of what you have here, then no.
Okay, if everything went well, could we pass and vote on that night?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need. I just want to know which way we go with that.
Now, when you pass on, and your motion is going to be to recommend it to the council. So it doesn't go into effect that night. What it does is go to the next council meeting. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Okay, very good. Thank you. That's a good question. Sarah?
Yeah.
Did you have any questions or
No,
feedback on that? That's good.
no, I attended the prior meetings.
Yes.
Discussing it.
So we did understand that we took this last discussion prior, and we really, I think we worked it, and we actually were suggested after we saw it and after we reviewed it, the Carl and David also, there was a consensus that we would put this on the side until we had a full commission. I think we have reviewed it from where we can up to now, so that we can present this in the review as it is, based on what we've done so far. So I think that would be so is that right? Is that right, that you see?
I wanted to resend it last month, even though they were both here during the workshops, Mary and Sarah. So we had a consensus then. I'm still in agreement with Carl that this doesn't even look like a mobile food unit ordinance. It looks more like an ingress, egress, and a special events package ordinance than strictly a mobile food unit ordinance.
It's not strictly a mobile food unit.
But that's what
It is
we're
a
working on.
combination of all our special events, our mobile food unit, everything else is a combination. It's not just mobile food units.
That's what
It
we're
never
supposed to
has
be
been.
working on.
But
That is what we were supposed to be
No,
working
no.
on, mobile food unit ordinance.
that's part of what we were doing. It's not that we were going to do just mobile food units.
It's all inclusive.
So the thought is, and I want to say, is that when we discussed this, David and Carl, we discussed it in the fact that we went through line by line by line. And yes, there is an ingress and egress part of it. There is but then we also have the liabilities and insurances. You can go over it and see that we talked about the temporary uses of it when it can be done. I don't think there is any issue that's brought on here now that we cannot present this and put it on, and then if we need to correct it, we can correct it during the other hearing.
Oh, I agree. I want to move it forward.
Because if we keep this down where we keep it down and start worrying about the these and those and the dots, we will never get any movement. I think the meat of the subject here is exactly what we would like to have. That would bring it forward so that we can have something to grab on. Instead of spending the time, limited time that we have to argue, or not argue, but discuss. Does that make sense to anything what I'm saying?
Be good to have the state's input. And-
Yeah.
And the.
'Cause we're looking at-
And then we've got to,
Right.
I was here when when we were doing that.
Okay, see?
Before I went south.
Right, so when we do have this progress then, so our next step is, you were saying, Rick, is that we would basically send this on. And we have for first public comment or go to the state first.
It goes to the state first. We're required to notify the state before we start taking comments.
Okay, meaning from the public.
Yeah.
Okay,
60 days.
so it takes 40 days for the state to give us some sort of stimulant and then.
Yep.
And then hopefully by July, we'll have time, enough space to
Yep.
create a public opinion.
Yes,
So I'm thinking in the view, follow me there too, then, is that we can send it to them for their review. Do we need a motion? to have
yes.
that go?
I'm requesting a formal motion directing staff to proceed in sending this to the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development, along with a notification for a future public hearing.
Okay, so do I hear a motion for the fact of sending this to it, to the city, the state of Oregon, as well as to open it up for the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to send this to the states. We can open it up for a public hearing.
And also, do we have a second on that? I'll second that. And Carl second. Thank you, the commissioner votes. Okay, so that is that. Is there any comment on what we just did? Is everything okay with where we're at? You feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, you need a vote.
Okay, so let's vote on our, and that's what I was leading up to. Can we have our votes in favor of the proposal?
Yay?
Yay.
Yay.
Aye. Yay.
Okay, well, motion is passed. Okay. I do want to, this is going to be a very easy night for all of us. I don't think there's a lot of dwell time on this particular situation. I do see that our next discussion, and it's basically a discussion about our vacation rentals and rules. I was reminded that when I had a research on this. I'm pretty sure we really went over some of the, and I'm gonna mention this to Rick here, that the vacation rental rules and regulations. I'm thinking that in the past commission meetings, we had gone over some of the coding and ordinances of somewhat of rental properties or renting or putting home other than, and we decided it was gonna be on commercial for our people that want a vacation stay or temporary housing or rentals, short-term rentals. Does anybody remember that? Mary, remember, I know we had a discussion at that, and I think it was before y'all were on. And it was basically, it was a couple of years ago with this, and so I'm just bringing this out. But I know that there's others who are thinking about that, but what do you think that we want to do to address this issue? Is there an issue about this that we want to address? Have you read the articles on the, on this? David?
Comment, looking at vacation rentals here in Lakeside, there's about 20.
Okay, good. There is
Okay,
20.
through VRBO, there's 20 inside the city limits.
Get 20.
20. So I would rather see us do working on a camping ordinance than worrying about vacation rentals with 20 inside the city limits. That's not a priority that we should be even considering. I would consider,
It would be two ordinances that we're concerned, I know. So we're gonna bank this one on vacation rentals and put this for down, for further, how do we wanna facilitate it as far as the draft, all these rules? I wanna get this done. I know that the camping ordinance, I think we can put that on to another time.
Can I interject? First of all, I see a lot of comments on Facebook and other places. And where people are saying something about, well, that might be a planning commission article or idea or something like that. Planning commission is basically concerned with land use. It's how you use your land and your zone and thing like that. It has nothing to do with rates and things like that. And you see that all the time about, well, planning commission should work on this. Like they should work on the planning commission should work on the problem with our jump and all that, that's a council problem. That's not a
Yes.
planning commission problem.
Yes.
And I don't think we should get into that, but I think that we need to approach the camping regulation, because as far as I understand it, if a city doesn't have a regulation on where these people can go, they can go anyplace. Then the city is open. But if you designate a spot for them to camp, the homeless to camp, then they have to go there. If they're on some street someplace else, they can be fined and pulled in and everything else. And that's my opinion, or what I think the state is requiring.
Thank you.
Where do we have that we could designate?
I know that's what we need to talk
Well,
about.
I think that that's gonna require another part of our, we can have that in our June meeting to start. So that we can be prepared for what can be and make up these, our thoughts on the camping. I know that's an important. So to look at this, as far as our vacation rental rules and regulations, we want to basically bench that for a while, and then maybe on our next meeting, discuss in more detail our camping ordinance. I'm gonna direct this for Rick, if I might say. In our two things here, where is it that we have on this instance, our vacation rental rules on the books? As far as what we have in our ordinance. Do we have an ordinance for this? I knew that,
Well, there's an ordinance that was done in 1993 that involved the TLT tax money stuff, in which defined where or what was, so we say supplemental housing. So some of the definitions of what is considered a rental happened in the ordinance that the council did. But the subject of that ordinance was more about the tax stuff, not about vacation rentals. It just defined what supplemental housing units were. So so that was in 93. I'm not that clear as to where else we have additional coding that directly addresses our vacation rental code. But fortunately, the state has provided language based upon their programs, which we can use since we're within the state. Yes.
Last year, we worked on, what do you call them? Secondary housing within the
ADUs?
ADUs.
accessory dwelling units,
Yeah, we worked on that last year.
okay?
Okay, so there should be something in the books as far as ADUs.
Now, accessory dwelling units are typically small houses and typically were, I believe, intended for not for rental, but just to allow more population to live within the confines of your community. And even the state has passed some laws disallowing the cities from not allowing accessory dwelling units. But that doesn't mean necessarily that they're rental units.
But on the other hand, our A and B units,
ADU,
I bet half of them are in the residential area and not in the commercial area,
state,
which is not appropriate.
state says you can't use ADUs for an STR. You cannot use an ADU for a short-term rental. So,
Okay, so in the spirit of all this then, is I know that we, in order to be an ADU, it does have to be in the right measurements because the commission is only good at the ordinances and the codes that we can actually
Okay,
be influenced on. So we can't tell, I would think that the council would have a lot to do with other parts. But I think we're restricted to just what we can do is, again, ordinances and the codes. And that's what we can work in them. Once we get out of that, then it's,
I think we did this all last
I
year.
think so.
Because we were
Good.
we were saying if it had to be a setback or if it could be equal and could go
Is
on
this the ADUs?
ADUs.
Correct, so that's what I'm
Be a
saying.
Percentage.
We did this
Right,
all last
so we already discussed that. So that's basically what we as commission can have influence on. Other things, other than rents and costs and stuff, that's not in our forte. I'm looking at the fact of tonight's basically meeting, which is great about having all of our commissioners back in up to power again. And going over the review of the draft truck ordinance. And I know we've had this discussion, and I feel like I'm having a deja vu on the vacation rental rules and regulation. Since it's been perked up my brain here to see exactly what it means and does. And I guess the biggest thing, and it is consensus of the group, that our camping ordinance, or do we have a strong camping ordinance and the regulation?
We don't have any.
We don't have any.
So we're going to be the first of the commissions forever before us, behind us, to start this up. So we will be the vanguard of this particular new ordinance. Basically, we want to do it with camping, which I think is fine. I think it ties in with the vacation rental. I think it has some sort of goes with it, but the camping regulations. So that we don't have campers out here on front of the city hall or that, and that there is regulation. So what's the thought about that? Raise your hand if you have it.
I got a thought on that. I'm not so sure that camping regulation is the right word to use. It's a regulation that we've got to institute to prepare for the homeless.
So if we can't find a piece of property so that they can camp on that, then you disallow it completely.
No,
We can't, by law.
and the city is open.
It's either you
So
got
you need a piece of property.
You need to find a spot for the homeless to make their home.
public right away, it doesn't have to be a piece of property, it could be a public
could be
right
it
away,
could be
a street,
designated
Uh, anything, but
And it's also, I would think, if I'm not mistaken and interrupt you, is limit
Yes, time.
We have maybe room for up to X amount of people for homeless. To say we have a homeless spot does not mean that we do like Hong Kong does and has 100,000 people in a square mile. So it has to be controlled in our maximums and minimums, the mini-max theory. You know, and how are we going to, again, how are we going to regulate that? So in our whole thing, and that's cost. So what are we going to do, as you say, as on our commission, to fabricate and to build up something that can hold up so that we can present it? And when we present this, sorry, David, for this, when we present this again, would that be a public hearing? If we do this, an ordinance, a camping ordinance?
At some
Would
point,
that
yes.
require 45? No, it doesn't require.
No,
So a couple, like one season to the next, and we would open it up. But before we open it up, I want to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row so that we have this. So it's strong enough so that the comment from the public will be either that's good or not, and to find out who's more involved with the good and bad and go with the ordinance.
Well, we got a lot to pull from Grants Pass.
So I'm
Just as pretty much one in the Supreme Court for it, so we could model something after them, Coos Bay. So we have grounds to go. I don't think you can limit the number of people, but we do have code enforcement because it was put in the budget. So the code enforcement officer for the times, let's say 7 PM to 7 AM, can go rile them and give them their ticket if they're not out of there at 7 and start the process.
I still think that there should be a limit on people. I mean,
I agree with that, but
North Bend, on their ordinance, they labeled streets
yes,
that they could put their RVs on. And there was only, I don't know how many streets and all that, but there are streets, and the RVs can go there and stay, I don't know if it's 24 hours or 48 hours, but they're limited to a period of time that they can stay there.
Well, the residents are, if it's on their street.
Sarah has
That's
a
not
thought.
residential area. It's business.
Not on my street, no.
Chairman
That's
recognizes Sarah.
So,
Sarah.
hi, so I actually attended a bunch of League of Oregon City meetings about this when I was on council, and their TINA code tech in our government requires a certain amenities that we have to take in consideration also. You don't have to give them, you know, power and water and any of that, but you also have to make sure that wherever they are, they have access to a place to go to the bathroom and waste, like garbage facilities. And they also, that would also require a person, a maintenance man, a volunteer, would have to monitor it, because according to Oregon law or whatever, you have to maintain the, you can't just let them have at it. You have to keep it clean, keep it maintained, and provide them with a place to go to the bathroom and garbage.
So like a salmon can, a dumpster.
Porta potty and the trash can, yeah. But you'd also have to have somebody watch it. You also can't limit the person, from my understanding, from staying there based on criminal background or mentality, if, you know, they are schizophrenic or drug addicts. You can't say you can't camp here because of such and such. Yeah, you have to allow it to be open to any and all who need a place to stay. You can't say not you, but you. Is how the League of Oregon Cities described it.
Well, that's something we could pursue, but this particular issue can go on more than what our planning commission's agenda is. I would like to see us, and maybe, can we put this, on our next meeting?
Mhm.
So that we can actually put this through, because there's a lot of passion,
I think it needs to be made a priority.
and put that in our, next.
Yeah, I would like to even have a workshop with our council,
Yeah.
so we can get on the ball. I mean, they're gonna be the ones who are gonna sign off on it.
They're gonna have to enforce it.
Mhm.
Yes, and we want to make sure we do it right, so why not get our new council involved, show them that we're,
Well, let's have the meeting and have something written out that we can present to them, where they have multiple things, so we're not saying 10 things, and then we all look, we all agree, we vote on whatever we want to say. This is what the paperwork we'll submit to the council and let them read it based on the 5 of us who agree and get a little more power onto that. And then let's look at it this way. Let's find things that we can be precise and right on so that we don't take 2 or 3 council or commission meetings to achieve. As
I
you
agree
know,
with that.
who've been on the commission. And we've been on it, I've been on it for a long time, Mary. Carl's been in council as well as Sarah being on the council. You know how meetings can be. They can go on so far that we lose sight of exactly what the essence of it was. We get, so we wanted it, but we couldn't get it. I want to see some hard things done so that when we're done and we're retired, we are retired. But when we're done with this thing, that we could actually say, that was done. That was done. Instead of, well, 5 years ago, we thought about it, and it's still 5 years that we haven't done it yet. Those are frustrating things. And it frustrates the morale and the vitality of our city. I think they want to see some things done. I think they want to see us kind of have to take this issue and let's say, we all look passionate on the camping part. Now, when we think of this, is this strictly being led for the homeless on our camping ordinance? Is that basically, if we make an ordinance, is it going to be just strictly to help protect us from the homeless people?
Yes.
Is that the crux of that?
Yes.
Okay. So then I would move then that we make a point of adding our next conversation to our next month's meeting on our agenda of putting on the camping. And so you know what we can do, let's discuss things like our, I don't know if there's several of us can look into it, but look into our timings, the type of camping, where it could be, who it could be. It says, well, we'll get 3 people to help. Well, you know how hard it is to get even 1 person to help. So maybe we can come up with this thing. Do you have an idea that maybe we have a couple of us do some learning to advance it? Or you were saying a workshop. Does workshop meeting interest you guys?
Yes. Because then you know where your council
Well, I just
is.
want-
It depends upon what, workshops are fine, depends upon at what stage you're working on.
Yeah, well, I want to see how we can then let's think this. We can either prepare it and come together in June and not have a workshop, but we're going to make on the agenda a camping ordinance. And maybe how would we go about that? Let's ask our city manager and see what he thinks. Rick?
Well, the first place I'm going to start is not reinvent the wheel and reach out to the League of Oregon Cities and get some samples as to what other cities are doing. The League is a great resource. This is a hot issue. Cities are doing a lot of different things. So it would be my intent to present some kind of presentation information of 4 or 5 different approaches that different cities are doing as it relates to a camping ordinance. We actually have a unhoused coordinator for Coos County now. In other words, somebody who has sort of become a specialist in the unhoused side of this issue. And I'm not sure whether or not their position would be something of aid, but I would definitely visit with that person and check in with that person. And they're happy to come out here. I know they're chomping at the bit to do stuff. So no, I want to get some samples from other cities in the league and reach out to our county unhoused person and provide you with hopefully informative, printed, reliable sourced material.
I think that's a logical way to go.
I do too. So we're talking about this June.
Yes.
Well, we'd have a starting point to go over and see what would adapt to Lakeside. What would work here. Yeah.
And the other thing,
Different ideas.
and the other thing would be the information on how that grants pass is proceeding.
What is that?
I sent out a brochure or something that I found about the grants pass is on their homeless people. They're fining them and ticketing them. And if they don't move, they're throwing them in jail. And basically they're forcing them out of the city. And it's gone to the Supreme Court, I believe.
Yep.
And the last I heard was that it's kind of 50-50 on how they're going to handle it. There's a lot of people in favor of grants pass rules and regulations of saying, yeah, go someplace else. And find
So the
it.
governor was down there, or going to go there.
Yeah, so
So he
anyways,
was-
I'd like to have more information on how that's progressing.
did that.
That's
take him out.
interesting.
I bet if we just get on Facebook and any information on there, I think you're gonna find all kinds of. I have family that are grants pass, and I was just there not too long ago. And one of this guy he's a ministry, his son is a fish store guy. So I helped him build his fish store. And his dad also owns the outreach, kind of a thrift shop. And right behind that building is a encampment of homeless. And so they are being addressed, but they are being, like I say, channeled into specific areas. So in the event when we do have this spot, they have X amount of space to put homeless. Or, I don't know if that's a politically correct thing anymore, homelessness. What is it, whatever word they're gonna use. So if are going to have to designate it, I don't know how far we as a commission can do it, as far as letting the council know. But who do we let know where they can go? I mean, we as a commission can only go based on ordinances and codes. But as far as the other part, who would handle that? And I want to direct
Can
that
the
to you.
police do that? Can they? No.
That's a
Not
city.
city.
Well, look
county.
at that problem at the shop. We had a homeless in my parking lot. And it was nice because he said he was almost out of gas. He had a week of station. But then, well, a week, 2 weeks later, he's back in my parking lot.
Yelling at.
And I went out to talk. And he was screaming foul when he then came down by this house. And the police did come. But they knew who it was, and they said if he came back again, it was called theft of services. Usually not. So they would arrest him. So I just went, that doesn't apply if it's on city property.
The police won't enforce city ordinances because they're a sheriff, they're county, they won't enforce city ordinances. Now, if they do something illegal, like trespassing on your property that day, yes, they will come ticket them, give them a citation, say no trespassing on.
Or if you're,
Because it's private.
or
it's
if you
private
are
property.
caught shoplifting at McKay's, there's a lot
Yes.
of people there.
That's
Or
when they will do
shooting.
something.
Okay, yeah.
But right now, as the law sees it, as long as it's on public or like city, state, county, anything that's public, you're completely allowed to park there as long as you want to camp there. The private property is different, that's enforceable.
As long as it does not, if it's public property and it's a public park, then you have people that want to use the facilities. So that means you have, these people get a chunk of something that the public normally would use. Is that what is that what it really means?
Mhm.
So do we have any idea where we're gonna put this place?
No, that's part of our job to figure it out.
Yeah,
Is it city
I'd also-
property that we can
Sorry.
do that?
Well, I think that would be up to the council. I think planning would write the ordinance and leave it up to council to
right,
decide to
exactly.
follow through
That's
with it.
exactly.
Oh, I'm glad that's gonna pass.
Yep, yeah. I think we just here just to fill out that and go, and like I said, we can go on and on and on and talk about this. But let's punt on that, and you say you'll fix that up there, Mr. Ray.
I would think that it'd have to be added into the zoning code.
Sure, And we can do zoning.
And that.
We're in the
that-
zone, and we'll look
that's
up
our-
the zoning codes. And we do have some influence on zonings, codes and regulations. As far as. We need to make, again, let's work together, make a good presentation to go to this next step of the council and get something going. So, is there any more feet on that? We already know what we're gonna do on that. As far as when I say that, our camping on the agenda.
Is Rick gonna get us the different samples?
Okay,
I have one more question, Mr. Chair. Can we have a rules of conduct? Council has 3 different ones, planning has 0.
so what would you be like, what would you think?
I would say yes. Personally, I think we need one.
Okay,
I mean, we could adopt one of city councils. I mean, they have 3. I'm sure they could share one.
and then of their code of conduct,
Rules of conduct of council.
okay.
Am I right with that, Mr. City Manager?
They have city council rules.
Yeah, council, rules of council.
What would give me an example?
Well, they have a media policy. They have, there's an example, media policy. They have a media policy. Supposed to be no bad mouthing, no negative comments about your constituents or their chairpersons, your other counselors. There's one. I got a whole list of their.
Yeah, they're like, that's the duty of the public servant.
I think, Commissioner Smith, that I'm just not sure if are we needing to have that?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. Are we
I
that?
feel constrained on that issue. I would think that we've all been around the block here, and then our attitudes to one another, our respect for one another. I don't sense any brown air, and I call it brown air because it's the sneak gump between the groups to have caused that.
In 4
Maybe we
years,
should-
we never had any.
Maybe we should approach that when the issue comes up. Carl, what do you think?
I don't know, I mean, we already got our, conduct rules where, you know, where we can't meet 3 of us together.
Yes.
Because
If it's based on the subject of a current, and if it's about a current issue,
yeah,
we can talk about issues in the past. Is that not right? Not correct? We can talk about non-issues. There's 2 or more commissioners get together. We don't want to all talk about what's going on in our
Like a planning forum?
planning forum.
Well, they have authority, form of government, meetings, agenda, voting, power and duties of office, mayor, council, community relations. Counselor, that would be us, we're commissioners. Council to staff and community, so, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have them. So we don't step outside of our lines.
Have we stepped outside of our lines? I think in the past, Mr. David Smith, we have, and there were. I think this group now has seen what that we're not gonna do. I wanted to try it without it. And with the open end that we can intervene and do it, we felt that was necessary. Through a consensus of all 5 of us. I would like to think that when we do make a decision, and if it was, and I said no, and you all said 4, said yes, there would be no, people would say, well, we can't have him because he voted all this, or, you know, those are the kind of things. So I think we should just respect each other's decision and know that when we leave, you guys would still invite me over to get a drink of pop.
Yeah.
But in the meantime,
Take you out in the sand.
you know, so that we know that we respect each other's decision. So far, I'm excited about having contrary stuff. I love it. It is food to our system. It keeps me from having to fall asleep based on doldrums. especially when we have, comments from our, attendees. When they find, we've had several of those real fun, loud, noisy.
But that's where it gets loud is because in 4 years, we've never had problem with the commission. Not that I have ever
In the group.
in the group.
Well, we've had a little bit.
Not
Okay.
so she noticed.
None, but-
I've seen it a few times
Right.
from,
Right, so we know.
Former people.
yeah, from here, from the.
But that's not gonna happen because we are full of joy, peace, and
Love.
love, because we are catching the atmosphere of the pureness of what Lakeside drops upon us.
And Mr. Chair, that's one reason why I brought up our rules of council, so we didn't have the outbursts that we had previous with the previous commissioners. Because that just goes to the integrity and it goes to our community relations because
Well, I think we're, as adults, we can hold ourselves accountable for our own actions. We don't usually be babysat.
I agree with that, but I was just going off of what we,
And if we do need to be babysat, I'm assuming that one of us will tell us to shut up.
or the city manager might tell
I
us.
was looking.
Yeah.
I think so. We get out of our reach. I think we have our limits and we know that.
We'll get a sergeant involved.
Yeah, that gets sarcasm. So in the information, if there's nothing else, unless you want to talk about stuff, I would, in fact, here it is. And I'm just gonna say it right here. Our planning commission June meeting topics are going to be mainly the camping ordinance, maybe a review of the vacation rental or the vacation rules, just a little tad of that so that I could find that we're all into that apart. Carl, you were mentioning that we had, and Mary, that we had that kind of thought talks before. So we could bring that up a little bit. You know, just remind, hey, on Article 151615, that we did this and this, and that would be good. Does that make sense? Okay. Actually, we have, if that's the case, we can go right here and staff and commission comments. It sounds like that's what we've been doing, is making commission comments. Does the staff have any comments?
Nope.
Okay. Well, if that is what it is, then I suggest that we adjourn the meeting. And our next meeting will be on June the 6th at 6 o'clock. And I would think that should be it. Thank you so much.